From the police state to tectonic plates, touch, sense, and tattoo take the temperature of tyranny on Freedom Frequency 1871. Coming to you live now.
This is America. We have a founding fathers that wrote a constitution that we haven't lived by in 142 years.
Were they serious when they said they planned on owning the weather by 2025?
And if you're not pissed off, there's something wrong with you right now.
I mean, have you guys seen what's going on outside your door lately? Need I remind you?
This is America. Are y'all going to allow it to be Russia?
Welcome to Freedom Frequency 1871. This is again your host, Dutch Sense. It is Friday, May 30th, 2014, 8:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or Daylight Time. Depending on what you subscribe to, I hope you guys had a good past couple weeks. And I've got Tattooed on the line here with me, my co-host who's been through the thick and thin with me for the last several years. Tat, you there?
Oh, yeah, man. I'm here. Banzai!
Ah, yes. Very good. You make a very good point, and we'll get into that in a minute. We'll get into bonsai kamikazes in a minute. But, you know, guys, this past 2 weeks, last week we weren't able to do the broadcast. I was ill, and then the website went down with some audio streams. So it was kind of a good thing in the end that I got sick because I really didn't miss out on very much. The live stream went down. But here we are this week, and we're going to go over the past week's news in just a minute. And for those of you who are calling in, we're going to start probably at the start of the second hour again with call-in. Hopefully, we got a lot to get through. And as you guys know, this past week was just a wild week all the way around with the shooting that happened, of course. And we had a few other interesting things happen earth changes-wise. The Pope went to Israel, and as the Pope crossed the border from Israel into Jordan, an earthquake struck, 4.0. Well, 3.9. 4.0 struck right at the border of Israel and Jordan as the Pope passed across. And at the same time frame, 6.9 magnitude earthquake struck in Greece near Thessalonica. And if you're familiar with the Bible, it's kind of weird. Thessalonians, right? Okay. So there's a 6.9 at Thessalonians, and the Pope has an earthquake as he passes across the border. Now, I personally believe in missile defense and high-frequency, low-frequency manipulation of the Earth's atmosphere, ionosphere, where these world leaders go. So it's no shock that we see earthquakes follow them wherever they go, like when Obama's family took the spring break trip down to Oaxaca, Mexico, and the 7.0 struck there at the same time that they landed. Or when Obama went to Thailand or Obama went to Hawaii, same thing, earthquake each time. And so that's just pretty interesting that happened with the Pope and the earthquake. And then that kind of just led off the week on some serious craziness. Last week after the show, Tat and I discussed, or before the show when it went off the air, we were discussing what we were going to talk about last week. And we're going to get into this right now. I'll get into the headlines and Colorado and the landslide and the harp rings and everything else that happened this past week in just a minute. But first things first, we came up with an idea, Tat did, and this is genius, that come July 4th of this year, in a month basically, that everyone needs to, for 2 days on July 4th weekend, celebrate the 4th like it's your last. Like you really mean it. Like it really means something. Even though right now it doesn't. We are not free. We are not independent. If you celebrate Independence Day this year, you're being a hypocrite. We're not independent anymore. Everybody knows it.
Slaves.
We're slaves to a corporate system that we've been talking about now for a long time. But I'm going to explain it to you guys tonight. And that's what we're going to spend probably the first half hour on here. If I can get it done less time, we hopefully can. But we're going to use this video going on YouTube as soon as the radio show posts. We're going to be putting up videos telling everybody about this July 5th and July 6th. Don't spend any money. Stay home if you can. Push. Now, we're not asking anybody to lose their job. We're not asking anybody to do anything harmful. This is a nonviolent, planned revolution to get people out of a rut. We are in a rut in this country where we do not stand for anything. Okay? And if you don't stand for anything, you'll fall for something. Okay, that's the old saying. It's true. So we need to take a stand. And the stand that we need to take, some people are saying, will hurt small business if everybody doesn't spend. Well, I guess it will. Maybe for 2 days. Maybe it will. Big corporations aren't going to be hurt dollar-wise by this. This is all psychological. This is to get inside the heads of everyone that our corporate...
Up.
Right. Wake up. And what wake up to what, I guess, is the question we got to ask. And what we're trying to wake you guys up to is that our government formed into a corporation a fairly long time ago now, almost 140 years after the Civil War. Right after the Civil War, we formed into a corporation, okay? Excuse me. And
143 years.
This was a process that began before that, let's say 220 years ago. States and local townships started to form into corporate entities in order to do business. And to give you a perfect example, here in St. Louis, Missouri, where I live, we have an old town right next to us called St. Charles, Missouri. And it just celebrated its 200th year of incorporation. And we've all heard of incorporated and unincorporated townships. And we know that at the unincorporated townships, anywhere across the U.S., you got roads that are barely maintained, nobody's cutting the grass, and that's because there's no corporation collecting money to take care of those areas, right? It's just basic economics 101. But what we're proposing here is that government only, and this does not apply to McDonald's hamburger, this does not apply to Boeing or Lockheed Martin, this only applies to government, that we pass a law that prohibits government from being a corporation and substitute the corporation with a nonprofit and use the model of, let's say, a 501c3 that they make all the churches form into as a means to limit the government. And the way this would work, it's very simple. We're not saying no cops. We're not saying no military. We're not saying no public schools. We're saying that we should have a choice, the people, as to where our money goes. And the days of paying taxes, quote unquote, are over. But part of the new law that we're going to be writing up here, and we are going to be writing up an actual law that we're going to be proposing to be implemented in all 50 states, and that's what this July 5th and 6th push is really for. The July 5th and 6th push is to get your attention to what's coming on the 7th. On 7/7, Monday, again, 7/7/14, kind of ironic, right? We're going to be rolling out an initiative, a ballot initiative in all 50 states. And we need volunteers, at least 2 per state, in all 50 states to run this signature campaign. We need to collect the appropriate amount of signatures per state in all 50 states in a certain amount of time, which will all be designated by each state's rules for collecting names to get something on a ballot in a certain amount of time, hopefully this year. And what we're aiming to do at a state and local level is to abolish corporate government. 1871 is not going to be anywhere in the words, but 1871 is the example that we're using as the U.S. government has formed into a corporation, and corporations are designed to make money off of you. Incorporated. It needs to be a nonprofit where the government has to raise money like a fundraiser, like the Red Cross, like PBS, like Dutch Cents on YouTube. You've got to raise money beforehand to do anything. And I can tell you what, you'd have to force the people to give. And this is, again, part of the law that needs to be written that we're going to draft up ourselves over the next few days and have posted online for everyone to review, is a requirement for each citizen. Part of this law is going to require you, if you live in the United States, if you're able-bodied, unless you have some kind of severe medical condition, you have to take part in this voting process. And the voting process is going to include where do you want your money to go to. It's going to be either on a weekly or a monthly basis that you're going to have to take one day out of your life to direct where you want the money to go to. And I guarantee you the new base they want to build over in Okinawa for multiple billions of dollars won't get built. Who would give to that fundraiser? I wouldn't. but I sure as heck would give to the road fundraiser, possibly even the police fundraiser, if the police would stop beating everybody down. And you can bet the police would be singing a different tone if they knew next month their fundraiser was determining what their paycheck was going to be. Do you think they'd even show up for work if they knew that they could be held accountable? Maybe a whole new flock of good people would actually show up. But we won't know any of this until we first take the steps to abolish corporate government. Boeing's fine, McDonald's hamburger's fine, you guys go ahead and be a corporation. But guess what? You'll have to give as well. McDonald's Corp, if you're based in the US, you're going to have to give a certain percentage out of your total corporate profits every week or month, however you want to do it, just like we would have to do out of our paycheck. You will be required by law, all of us, to give a certain percentage, and you'll dictate where those percentages go. And I guarantee there'll be certain cuts in the government, because if you and I are given the choice to choose what we want to give to, I will give to roads, I will give to hospitals, I will not give to welfare. I'll give to pregnant mothers and sick people. I'll give to prescription meds for old people. But those people that are living off the government, boom, you're not getting the money. There's no money in the fundraiser. I'm sorry, you're going to have to get a job. What are we going to do to eat? I don't know. People are giving to the food bank. You can go to the food bank and pick up as many cans of food as you need. Well, I don't want foods. I want cigarettes. Well, I'm sorry. You're going to have to work for that. Your EBT card will no longer be used to pay for alcohol. Right? So, what are we trying to do? We're trying to change the country without a violent revolution. And it's huge. It's the first step that I know that anyone has taken. You know, all these people marching on Washington with their guns. Yeah, get your gun. Let's go march on Washington. What's that going to do? Nothing.
Get you killed. Go up there and protest. It's going to get you killed or beat up. Especially the ones that don't know the difference between a Republican and a democracy, and they go over and holler democracy. They're going to get, beat up like they did up there with the Occupy Wall Street.
Agreed. And now the point of this, guys, is on the weekend. So you celebrate July 4th like you normally would, stock up on whatever you need. This is not really, money-wise, it's not going to hurt them. But psychologically-wise, the whole weekend after, it's supposed to be party weekend here in the U.S. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Go ahead and party on Friday. Celebrate your independence, and then show your independence on Saturday and Sunday by not buying anything, staying home. If you work, go to your job, but it might be empty, might not be anybody there. You might not get any tips if you work at that restaurant that night, but you're still showing up to your job. You're not going to get fired. People can still go work at the hospital. Police can still show up for their jobs to stop the criminals, and paramedics can still be on hand to help the children who blow their hands off.
Hopefully those people will stay at home too.
Yes.
Then there won't be no businesses open. The owners will close down too.
Hopefully,
that's the point of this. Everybody close. Businesses, police departments, fire departments. It's a time to make a stand. Period. If you close everything down, there's things that's got to be done. When there's an extreme emergency, yes. The ones that don't abide by staying at home and staying out of trouble. There's going to be something happen, of course. Yes. There could be somebody on standby, but that don't mean that they have to be running up and down the street. Or they have to be doing what they normally do. They can stay at home. Stay at home. Stay out of trouble. Everybody, stay at home. Stay out of trouble. If you don't go anywhere, you can't spend no money. You're at home. Don't get on the internet and spend no money. Stay off the internet. It's about our freedoms, people. It's not only that. Most of you people that are my age, which I'm a little older than Dutch, everybody knows that. This is about your children, your grandchildren. We don't want to leave a national debt that we don't owe to start with. We never have owed anybody. We were tricked into that.
The way we could break it down is this. The United States is living on a giant credit card. Okay? That's everybody understands credit cards. The U.S. is living on a credit card. We've been living on a credit card for a long time. You know what happens to people who live on credit cards, guys? Come on, I've seen it in my own family. You've seen it in yours. You live on debt, you're going to get screwed in the end, and it's all going to come home to roost, and you lose everything, and you have to declare bankruptcy, and everything falls apart.
I got one more thing to say. The people that are 50, 60 years old that are listening to this, y'all know that back in the 50s and 60s, that people didn't buy stuff on credit like they do today. The only thing they bought on credit back then was maybe their house, if they could get the loan. Generally, they paid cash for what they owned. And further back, they paid cash. There wasn't no such thing as credit cards like they got today. They had credit, but you had to go jump through hoops to get it. And now there's credit. You get hundreds of things about credit a day in your mail, all in your corporate name, all in capital letters, all in caps. Is that what y'all want? I don't think it is. We need to get rid of that before it destroys this country and the world. Because if we fall, they fall.
Well, this will lead as an example for the rest of the world. You know, somebody said when I made the post on Facebook letting everybody know what we're pushing for on July 5th, 6th, and 7th, that they said this needs to happen around the world. And most Americans don't even think about the rest of the world. But over in the UK, they don't celebrate 4th of July. Guys, you know this. They might celebrate Guy Fawkes Day, whatever, but we're the only place that celebrates our independence, so to speak, on Independence Day, 1776, U.S. style. But if we could get people in other countries to realize that their governments are corporations too. The reason the U.S. formed into a corporation in the 1800s was to do business with the other corporate governments who were loaning us money, and we're trying to get in good with international scene after the Civil War. We sold out. We created a corporate government with a campus, just like Microsoft has a campus on the West Coast up in Seattle. The U.S. government created a corporate campus in Washington, D.C. They set out the square. They built white palaces for themselves, and that's the place where government business is done. And the CEO of the corporation, the president, issues dictates and orders. They're just talking about that this week. Obama talking about how, well, what I say is law. Technically, if I can say issue a presidential order and say whatever I want and do whatever I want because I'm the CEO of this corp. And they point to something and they do it. The reason that all happens is because the money is there in a big open pot that we all dump into over and over again. We're just throwing thousands of billions of dollars into this big pot, and these guys reach in and grab out. And that's what they do. And they've grabbed all the way down to the bottom, and there's nothing left. And they're demanding more. And they keep saying, throw more in, throw more in. No. This needs to be a fundraisers type situation where the government has to come beg from us to do anything. And we need to set a law that says it, because right now the law says that the government can be a corporation. They formed into their own corporate entity to make money off you and I. We need to abolish this immediately. It starts with us staying home to get everybody's attention. Once everybody's attention is got, when they go to the store on Monday, there's somebody standing in the Walmart parking lot or the supermarket with a petition to sign to say, you know what? The days of making money on us are over. Now they have to ask us for money. Please, will you please give to this fundraiser to build the new aircraft carrier? We want to build a new state-of-the-art aircraft carrier. Will you please give here? Come on. No one will give. It'll be awesome. It'll be awesome. They'll be left having to use what they've got until it falls apart, and then we might give a shit enough to donate towards it. And
if it's a real story and it ain't propaganda like in the NDAA bill.
NDAA wouldn't get funded. You'd get a vote on it. And the other countries that do business with the great whore of Babylon, us, all of a sudden also have to become nonprofits because they're a corporate entity. They couldn't do business with a nonprofit. They would have to donate towards us. We'd have to donate towards them. It throws a wrench in the system of the corporate chain is busted. And it's only government, guys. I don't care if you want to go start a business, go for it. Guess what? You get to keep all your money, and then you donate back out what you want it to go to. You'll have to give a certain amount if you own a business. And we should set the law to be, something if you make billions of dollars in your company like Boeing or Lockheed or one of these companies, you have to give 20%, 30%, whatever, a lot. And they can give towards the aircraft carrier then. Sure, sponsored by Boeing. They can have a big old Boeing sign on the side of the aircraft carrier with sponsors. Why not?
By abolishing the Act of 1871, you also abolish the Act of 1913, which abolishes the Federal Reserve, which was done illegally to start with. And then the Federal Reserve wouldn't say federal notes, and the money wouldn't go to the Federal Reserve and then transported somewhere else. The money that goes to the Federal Reserve, people, do not go to your tax money that you think it does. It goes to other countries. It doesn't stay in this country. Only 10% to run the Federal Reserve, and that's it. The rest of it goes somewhere else. This country runs off of the tax money that you pay, the tax money. In other words, sales tax and your property tax. But rest of it, which should only be, according to the Constitution, the only sales tax that you got should be only sales tax. Should not be income tax. Shouldn't be taxed on your income, your savings, your notes, or anything else like that. You shouldn't have to pay property tax according to the Constitution.
If we abolish the corporation, the power to collect taxes then ceases. Could you imagine if Dutch Sense, me, could come to you and say, you have to give me XYZ? That's what the government is doing, guys. They are coming to you saying, you have to give us this. Now, in reality, if we abolish the corporation, all of a sudden, they have to come ask. And they would have to ask for everything. And you would cut out all the waste, all the excess employees. A lot of government employees would probably lose their job because they'd find out real quick that there's a lot of waste and graft going on in the government, and those people would end up working somewhere else, maybe McDonald's, maybe another corporation. But the corporations that are freed up with all those excess taxes, the government coming to you start a company, the government comes in and says, I get this. No, they should come to you and say, will you please give towards this? We need your help. People are using the roads to come to your business. You need to give towards XYZ. Please, here's the fundraiser. The whole society would change if we could just manage to abolish the corporation and change it into a nonprofit. It's simple. It's legal. It's the right thing to do. And I guarantee, how many of you guys would give towards giving Pakistan or Afghanistan foreign aid? How many of you? I wouldn't. Would you, Tad?
Nope.
No. How many of you would give towards a new submarine? I wouldn't. Would you? Not unless we're at war. If we're at war, go ahead and build it, man. Here's an extra $20. Make sure it's got a better antenna on the top. I mean, seriously, like these are just basic things that we can change. But we, us, you, me, Tad, the viewer, the listener, over the next couple months, we got to get our heads out of our asses and do something, because it's getting out of control. Once it gets out of control, there's no getting it back under control. It's like a rabid dog, guys. We've got to get that noose and put it around the dog and stop it. And literally, like put it down to the ground. And maybe not shoot it, but we've got to definitely get it into a cage. The government has become an out-of-control corporation, just like Texaco, just like Mobile, just like any monopoly. The government is a monopoly. It's a corporation, first of all, so it falls under corporate law, right? Well, guess what? Oh, that's right. The monopoly laws exempt government. Oh, facepalm. But that's the truth. They exempted government from the corporate monopoly laws, because you'd wonder, they split up Ma Bell, the telephone company. They split them up because they got too big and they had the power to control and price fix and everything. Well, the same things happened with the corporate government. Seriously. So, what are we going to do about it, guys? We're going to all stay home, not spend any money for 2 days. On a weekend, party weekend, you can stay home, spend time with your family, your roommates, whatever. And if you see somebody out spending money, guess what you're going to do, right? You're going to say something to them, aren't you? You're not going to fight them. You're not going to threaten them. You're going to say, what the fuck are you doing spending money this weekend? Don't you know? And get ready for Monday, 7/7. Have you heard? It's going down. Petition to outlaw corporate government. And if you're a troll or you're a person that doesn't like me and Tad or any one of us, that's cool, man. Dude, we're not asking you to get behind us. You guys need to make your own videos, Don't give us any credit. None. We don't want any credit for this. We need to have it be a groundswell movement across multiple facets. Alex Jones, Jesse Ventura, all the shills, all the people that we don't normally like. We all need to acknowledge that corporate government is the problem that leads to police beatdowns, excessive spending, graft and payoff, wars, what else? Greed, violence even somewhat. That it all goes back to the dollar. It all goes back to the money. And if you can cut off the money flow and make it... Look, man, have you ever had a relative that was a real jerk when they had all the money that they needed, but when they really needed the cash, they come to you and they're all nice? Have you ever had somebody that's like that? I mean, everybody has. This is simple human behavior. If they have to come hand in palm to ask for the money, guess what? The beatdowns stop. And if you're tired of the beatdowns and you're tired of this corrupt government, then you should have no problem with staying home on Independence Day weekend and not spend any money. And on Monday to sign that damn petition wherever we have a flock of people out there putting out the petitions to get signed in all 50 states to make this a thing of the past. And all those corrupt assholes are out. You think they're going to stick around if their paychecks dependent on how good they are? Oh my God, we've got to do this, or at least try, right? Tat, well, I mean, seriously, you came up with the idea. It's a good idea, brother.
Hey, I just hope it works. We got to do something. If we don't, if we don't do something and we don't make a stand peacefully for once, together, all of us, Alex Jones, Jesse Ventura, Ron Paul, Bo Greitz, all of you guys that's ever made a name for yourself that's out there. I mean all of you. SO. There's just hundreds of you guys that's got big names. Dabu 7.
Yes.
All of you guys, everybody. I don't care if you don't like me. I don't care. It's not about me. It's not about me. It's about your children and your grandchildren and so on and so forth. It's about everybody. It's not about one person. This is about everybody. It's about everybody. We the people. It's we the people don't want to leave our children in a slave environment and our children be in debt to a corporation from the day they're born, which that's happening today. They're in debt the day they're born. They'll never be able to pay their debt off. Ever. There's no way. They're in debt when they're born. They can't work enough to pay off their debt. I don't care if they're trillionaires. They'll still never be out of debt because their debt never ends.
That's right. It never ends. Now we got a minute till break. It never ends. It's ever ongoing. And just like a credit card, I mean, the people with a credit card that are out of control spenders, you see them, man. They go wild. And they'll have like a $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 debt on their credit card. And they're like, I don't know what to do when it all comes home to roost. But during that time of spending, it's build this, do this. I want to get that. I want that new couch. I want this new stereo, right? This is what the government is doing, guys. Again, July 4th, we all party. July 5th and 6th, you stay home or don't spend. And July 7th, you sign the petition. And to get the word out, I'm going to be drafting the law. The Dutch since drafted law, right? We're going to be drafting up the law tonight over the weekend and have it up by Sunday for you guys all to review. And we can edit and change it if we want, but once we get the petition out, that's where it's set in stone for what we're pushing for. So, big things are planned, big shit's going down, and we, the people, it figures it'll fall on my generation and Tat's generation, right? Like, you know, kind of like the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s generation, you know, the last rebel generation before the end of the robots, you know, I mean, come on. So we'll be back after the break. We're going to go over headlines, and then we'll take callers.
Corporations, Wall Street and the banks rule our politicians.
Damn right, guys. Welcome back to Freedom Frequency 1871. Time now is 8:35 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday, May 30th, 2014. And, before the break, we were getting really serious into what we're trying to accomplish here. And I hope you guys got the gist of what we're pushing for and how much we need your help. And you're probably wondering, if you're from another country, or let's say this is something you just heard about tonight. How does this affect other issues that I'm going through in my life? Let me just give you some examples. A lot of my viewers are into weather modification. We're talking about cloud seeding. We're talking about chemtrails. We're talking about radar pulses, HAARP, next generation systems. Well, I can tell you this. The cloud modification programs currently underway, let's say in Kansas or Nebraska or Idaho, or done by Pacific Gas and Electric out in California, or Desert Research Institute in Nevada, all currently operating with weather modification programs that are funded by state and local taxation that goes towards the aquifer management. So Big Brother comes in with their corporation, taxes you, uses that money then to hire a company to go out and spray silver iodide to make it rain for the power company, who then sells you back electricity out of their hydroelectric dam, for instance, in Idaho, where they're doing snowpack enhancement on Bureau of Land Management land to increase water runoff. Or how about this? Radar pulses. The WSR-88 NEXRAD program, maintained by the U.S. Army, by the way. If there's a problem at the NEXRAD and they need to get it fixed, guess who comes? A guy in camos. They got it on the National Weather Service website of the military, changing out the components inside of the system. Well, guess what? That funding's cut off. Now they have to do a fundraiser. Do you want to pay the National Weather Service? Maybe they'll start issuing warnings and alerts appropriately now and not base it upon where they want insurance company claims to come in. Or maybe they'll stop denying weather modification once they have to raise money to do it. Maybe we'll all get to read that NOAA weather modification form that must be filled out before any operations take place. Now, I'm going to run down the headlines really quick here because this is going to play nicely into what's going on out in Colorado. All right. Now, Colorado, if you haven't heard, out in Colorado, there was a massive 4-mile wide landslide. But before that, this massive series of weather modification pulses happened across Colorado in particular. And I've got a screenshot on here, and the producer is looking at a post that happened on the East Coast. This was out of Dover, Delaware. All right. A series of Air Force bases experienced radar pulses followed by severe weather hitting the center of the pulse. This even went down to Sumter, South Carolina, where another guy we know online thought I was talking about him, but really we were showing the Air Force bases getting hit all up and down the East Coast. Now, the Air Force bases weren't the only airports to get hit. In Denver, there were a series of strong storms that broke out and came directly to Denver International Airport and over the old TDWR radar station near Aurora. And a weather person on the Weather Channel made note of that. Her name was Maria LaRosa, said this, quote, "Denver area airports, are they tornado magnets? Of course not, but a tornado-warned storm moved right over the Front Range Airport yesterday. The hole in the radar picture at the right is the actual radar site, just east-southeast of DIA, Denver International Airport. And remember, last June, incredible pic of that tornado near a jet bridge at Denver International Airport on the left. In other words, the two tornadoes that happened in Colorado, Denver, in the past 2 years, both hit the radar station. And it happens over and over and over and again. And I've documented it 150 times. And people said it wasn't possible, whatever. And now we come to find out that not only is it possible, you've got people like, let's say, Michio Kaku coming out this past week saying that radio frequency caused the biggest downpours of rain he's ever seen in his life. He's talking about HAARP, by the way. And he said that not only has that happened in the past, but it's going to happen in the future too. HAARP program's not done yet, he says. And that's Michio Kaku this past year. Now, this happened on the eastern slopes of Colorado, these radar pulses out of Denver. On the western slopes, there was this massive landslide. And this is crazy. Tad is my witness. This is some crazy stuff going on out in Colorado. First things reported was a massive mudslide. All the media, massive mudslide covers the entire area. I said, what are you talking about? Massive mudslide? This area has gotten like a 1 inch of rain in the past couple weeks. There's not much rainfall there. And if you look at the pictures, of course, you can see there's not much snowpack there either. Now, this area flowed out like a lahar and went over hilltops, covering things like cement. And the mixture that went down this hillside, came out of the mountaintop basically, is a sandy, rocky mixture. There's no mud in the whole damn thing. There's not even a puddle. And I'm not kidding. You can watch the helicopter flyovers. It dried out almost instantly. Now, this got me suspicious, right? I see this. I'm like, what is going on here? So I go on Google Earth and look up the area that CNN is showing. And guess what's there? Fracking operation. The only one around for miles. So I make a post and I say, look, there's fracking operation here. And within minutes across my YouTube and Facebook pages, multiple people appeared saying, I'm a local. Well, they said two things. Comments were saying, I'm a local. There's no fracking operation there at all. Dutch Sense is misinformation, saying that. And another group of people saying, I'm a professional geologist. This is on Facebook. I'm a professional geologist, and there's no fracking going on in the area. Both sets of people. And guess what they both had in common? They were both double-letter name people. And we're talking 6 or 7 of them. Russ Rosenstein and Brandon Branishine, and I mean just double letter after double letter, right? Like fictitious characters like Lois Lane, Peter Parker, Mickey Mouse, and Donald Duck. Anyways, they come over denying that there's any fracking operation there. Meanwhile, my video, I'm zooming in on the area, and there's this, fresh new frack pads, new compressor station, pipeline station. Now, guess what? When I got challenged on that, it forced me to go look deeper. And this is a message to any oil shill. I know you're listening because I announced that I was going to be talking about this tonight. This is a lesson for you. If you confront someone who's telling the truth on something that they're showing in a satellite picture, you're going to force them to go find more proof to back up their claims. They're not going to back off. Like me, I'm not going to back off. So I went and verified the area and found out that it's called the Colibran Gas System, and that it's run by a company called DCP in Occidental, which they basically have fracked the hell out of the area since the 1980s and built new operations there as late as 2011. New ones, new frack wells. And the U.S. government, U.S. Department of Energy, partnered up with ExxonMobil, or Mobil at the time, to do drilling into the area that we're talking about here. Now, they since didn't develop that drill spot that collapsed. They developed all around it. The reason is there's high pressure liquid sand in the ground. You can go look it up. I provided links to the USGS and CERI, CERI, who provides all the seismic data for the Midwest. They've got a whole article on the Colbrand, sorry, I keep pronouncing Colbrand, Colorado gas system that is high-pressure liquid sand under the ground that contains a large amount of leftover oil from the previous oil pumping operations. And they've been bringing in, and get this, CO2, trucking it in, big trucks of CO2 like you put in a can of soda, and pumping it into the ground. And they call it CO2 sequestration. In other words, storing CO2 in old oil wells. Some genius, and he's a geoengineer, by the way, came up with an idea that you could capture carbon capture in old oil wells and store that carbonation underground, like filling up a can or a tank of carbon dioxide. Again, the same fizz that you get in your soda. So they've been pumping high amounts of CO2 down into high-pressure liquid sand for God knows how long now. And now, at the top of this mountain, at the top of this fracking operation, in between multiple wells, there's an eruption of sand and rock with no lake, no mud, no nothing except for sand and rock. Now, I'm showing this all. I'm just showing it. I'm just like, where is the water, guys? And now USGS comes out. They had a town meeting last night. Looks just like Bayou Corn, guys. Just like Bayou Corn. 150 people, 200 people packed into a little room with USGS guys up here saying nothing's going on. Now, keep in mind, USGS is the one that's there telling everybody what's happening. Instead of some hydrologist or river flow specialist, it's the USGS there. Okay? And USGS says there's another lake forming up top. Right? And they show on the local news, even on CNN, they talk about this conference that happened last night at the town hall meeting, I guess is what you should call it. And there's the USGS pointing to the shadow at the top of the mountain. We've all watched the video now, right? Tat, you've seen it. We've all seen it. The helicopter flyover. They're pointing to that shadow that's up at the top of the mountain that was literally a shadow. You can brighten it up and see right through it. They're saying that's the lake, and that there's a new lake forming that could burst out and wash away the entire town. No shit. And they're talking about evacuating the nearby people 2 miles away near Colbrand. This is, again, on CNN. This is not my own words. They've even interviewed a lady who's leaving her farm, and they're all packing up at least close by and leaving because of this threat of a new flood. Now, the shills coming over to my page, the oil company paid pet shills commenters, robo-commenters, mind you, coming over saying, flooding rains are happening here nonstop. Some guy makes a video, and he has rain playing in the background, guys. He has rain track. You know, this, like, it's not real. He's sitting there. He's playing rain in the background saying, see, don't you see? It's totally raining here. I live here. It's totally raining. Meanwhile, I go look it up, clear. And all the helicopter footage. They did the flyover, blue sky, nice and clear. And now the shills came back with, oh, well, it's snowpack melt. That's what it is. When you go look at the helicopter photos, now they're saying it's a waterfall coming off the top of the mountain that's filling up the pool that's going to wash away the town. It's all a bunch of BS on part of clearly what's a fracking operation, high-pressure sand ejected from the ground. Now, everybody's probably asking, how? It's simple, guys. You got to go back the last 2 months or 3 months and look at what's happened along the northwestern edge of the craton. First, you have to understand what the craton is. It's the unsubducted plate that sits there undisturbed for the last, well, they say hundreds of millions of years. I debate that on time frame, but the craton is the main portion of the U.S. plate that extends from Idaho south through Yellowstone, along the western slopes of Colorado, down through the South Colorado fracking operations, where it makes a hard right-hand turn and goes through Oklahoma and North Texas, and then makes a northeastern turn up the East Coast. And there's been a series of earthquakes that have happened there over many months now. A swarm in Oklahoma, slight swarm in South Colorado, huge swarm up in Idaho and at Yellowstone. Yellowstone confirmed to have moved 4 inches upwards, raised by 4 inches, and moved 1 inch.
Please go to the links in the below sections so you can actually see the real information and all the information that goes along with the story that I may be telling you. So you can see the truth of everything, including the Act of 1871. So much love to y'all. Y'all have a great evening. And for my cold dead hands, abolish the Act of 1871.